You check your bank account. It's low. You know you should save. But tonight, you order takeout anyway. You call yourself lazy. You call yourself weak. You tell yourself you just don't have discipline. But the real answer is far stranger. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do. And once you understand what's actually happening inside your skull when money runs out, you'll never judge yourself the same way again. Start with a simple question. Why do people with very little money sometimes make choices that seem irrational from the outside? Buying a lottery ticket instead of paying a bill. Taking a payday loan with brutal interest. Spending on something small and immediate instead of saving for something big and distant. For decades, economists had one answer. Poor decision-making causes poverty. If people just planned better, they said, they wouldn't be poor in the first place. That explanation feels clean. It feels satisfying. It is also almost completely backwards. In 2013, a team of researchers ran an experiment that changed how scientists understand poverty forever. Economist Sendhil Mullainathan and psychologist Eldar Shafir, along with colleagues Anandi Mani and Jiaying Zhao, studied sugarcane farmers in rural India. Here's what made these farmers perfect for the experiment. They get paid once a year, right after harvest. Before harvest, they're poor. After harvest, they're comparatively flush with cash. Same people. Same brains. Same farms. Only the amount of money in their pocket changes. The researchers gave these same farmers cognitive tests twice. Once before harvest, when money was tight. Once after harvest, when money was plentiful. The results were staggering. The exact same person scored significantly worse on logic and problem-solving tests when they were poor than when they were rich. Not because they became less intelligent. Because scarcity itself was eating their mental bandwidth. Think about what that means for a second. This wasn't a difference between poor people and rich people. It was a difference within the same person, depending on how much money they had at that moment. Mullainathan and Shafir call this phenomenon the scarcity mindset, and they wrote an entire book about it called simply Scarcity. Their core idea is this. When any resource becomes scarce, whether it's money, time, or even food, your brain automatically narrows its focus onto that scarcity. It becomes almost impossible to think about anything else. Picture your mind as having a fixed amount of mental bandwidth. Like a phone with a certain number of apps it can run at once. When you're not worried about money, that bandwidth is free to think about your career, your relationships, your long-term goals. But when money is scarce, an invisible app starts running in the background. It never fully closes. It's constantly whispering. Can you afford this? What if the car breaks down? How will you pay rent? That background app eats processing power. And it eats it constantly, whether you're at work, at dinner, or trying to fall asleep. This is called cognitive load, and it's not a metaphor. It's measurable. In the same study, researchers found that the mental effect of poverty on cognitive performance was comparable to losing an entire night of sleep. Or a drop of about 13 IQ points. Read that again. Being poor, in terms of raw brain power available for other decisions, can feel like losing 13 IQ points. Not because poor people are less capable. Because poverty itself borrows against your mind's limited attention, and it rarely pays that attention back. Now here's where it gets even stranger. This narrowed focus, this tunnel vision scarcity creates, isn't entirely bad. In the short term, it makes you incredibly good at solving the problem directly in front of you. Need $10 for gas right now. Someone under scarcity will find a way. They'll borrow it, sell something, work an extra shift. Scarcity sharpens focus on the immediate crisis like a laser. The problem is what that same tunnel vision blocks out. Long-term planning. Preventative decisions. Anything that isn't screaming for attention right this second. When your whole mind is consumed by this week's rent, next year's retirement fund doesn't stand a chance of getting airtime. This is why a decision that looks irrational from a comfortable armchair can be the single most logical choice inside a scarcity mindset. Buying a lottery ticket isn't stupidity. Under crushing financial pressure, a tiny chance at total transformation can feel more rational than a guaranteed, but agonizingly slow, path upward. When you're drowning, you don't calmly plan a swimming lesson for next month. You grab the nearest thing that might keep you afloat right now. If you've ever felt broke and made a decision you later regretted, pause here for a second and ask yourself something. What would you do differently if, for 1 week, money simply wasn't something you had to think about? Drop your answer in the comments below. You might be surprised what your brain would finally have room to consider. There's another twist to this story, and it comes from psychologist Walter Mischel, famous for his marshmallow experiments on delayed gratification. For years, people used his research to suggest that some children simply have more willpower than others, and that willpower predicts success later in life. But later analysis of that same research revealed something crucial. A child's ability to wait for a second marshmallow wasn't just about willpower. It was heavily influenced by whether the child's environment had taught them that promises get kept. Children who grew up in unstable, resource-scarce environments learned, correctly, that waiting doesn't always pay off. Sometimes the second marshmallow never comes. So grabbing what's in front of you right now isn't a character flaw. It's a rational response to an unreliable world. This reframes everything about how you should think about financial decision-making, both in others and in yourself. What looks like impulsiveness is often a brain that has been trained, sometimes over years, sometimes over generations, to trust the present more than the future. So what actually breaks this cycle? Mullainathan and Schaffer's research points to something almost counterintuitive. It's not more willpower. It's more slack. When researchers gave people even small buffers, a bit of savings, a delayed bill payment, a temporary cash cushion, cognitive performance improved almost immediately. The background app didn't need to run constantly anymore. Suddenly there was room to think clearly again. This is why financial advice like just budget better or just have more discipline often fails so completely for people under real scarcity. It's asking someone to run complex long-term software on a device that's already using all its memory just to stay online. The advice isn't wrong in theory. It's simply incompatible with how a scarcity-strained brain actually functions. Understanding this doesn't mean financial habits don't matter. They absolutely do. But it does mean the starting point matters just as much. A small emergency fund, even a tiny one, does more than sit in a bank account. It frees up mental bandwidth. It closes that background app, even partially. And a mind with more bandwidth makes better decisions almost automatically, without needing superhuman willpower to do it. Before you go, subscribe if this shifted how you think about money and the people who struggle with it, including maybe yourself. And here's that question again, because it's worth sitting with. If for 1 week your mind wasn't consumed by financial stress, what's the first long-term decision you'd finally have room to make? Type it in the comments. Someone reading might need to hear it. You check your bank account again. It's still low. But this time, you don't call yourself weak. You understand that your brain, under pressure, was never broken. It was simply doing exactly what evolution built it to do, protecting you from the crisis in front of your face, even at the cost of the one waiting down the road.